What is up, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the Dense Pixels podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Brad, joined by my co-host, Micah.
So, Brad, what do you want to talk about?
I'll tell you what, truly the duality of man going on in the video game world this week, because there's so much, like the news everywhere sucks. Video game news sucks, world news sucks. It's just been like shit news no matter where you turn. And yet, video games have had a week, like two of the biggest games of the year released on the same day last week, and they're bringing a great amount of joy to a lot of players, and there's, a lot of other great games, and it's been a great year for games. And I'll tell you what, I have a docket written. We might get to the news this week, and we might not. It really depends on Micah. Because after I do some housekeeping, I have it written in the document that I'm just going to let Micah cook. To talk about a game that he's been playing quite a bit of, it would seem, over the last several days, being as he has platinum trophied it already, which a lot of people have, actually. Apparently it's one of the easier platinums. But anyway,
it's super easy.
Yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. What I will tell you is that if you're new here, welcome. Don't forget that you can join our Discord by going to densepixels.com/fans. You can find the podcast on YouTube by searching out Dense Pixels. You can download it on podcast players like you would with any other show. Make sure you check out the other TNP Studio shows as well. We have a premium membership you can sign up for. It's $5 a month. It's $50 a year. What does that get you, you ask? It gets you access to the premium feed of podcasts, variety of different premium podcasts, including the Look Forward Weekly Political Podcast. Perhaps soon a new episode of The Men with the Golden Tongues. If we can get our act together and watch the new Mission Impossible, so that we can talk about the new Mission Impossible. And of course, you can support us financially other ways by going to our Amazon link when you buy things, which is densepixels.com/Amazon, where you can buy, among other things, a new video game that goes by the name of Spider-Man Part 2, which is really Spider-Man Part 3, technically, I guess. But then again, one of them was like a half a game. I don't know. I don't know. Micah's been playing Spider-Man. I, of course, have not been playing Spider-Man. I'll tell you why I haven't been playing Spider-Man either. And I'm not going to belabor the point. I've determined that in my like the way that I consume video games, I only have so many like big games in me every single year. And then like once I get past a big game, I have to like cool it out with like incredibly repetitive gameplay or just something very light and casual. So like once I was finished with Starfield, I like went into Cyberpunk, right? And I talked a couple weeks ago about like, I started a new Cyberpunk. I got through the prologue. I haven't played it at all since then because I'm just like, I'm not ready for this level of commitment right now. And so like I couldn't do a Spider-Man either, I don't think. So I'm playing Mario Wonder though. I'll talk about Mario Wonder a little bit later. But now I'm going to clear the floor and I'm going to let Micah talk about his experience of Spider-Man 2, and I may ask a question here or there. For the most part, Micah's about to bring great joy, I'm sure, onto the show, because he can't help but talk about these games without sounding like a little child.
Yeah, it might be my new favorite game. Look, this game is not without its faults. Okay, I'll get to some of the bad stuff, and then the like slightly disappointing stuff before I just like talk about it. So, the bad stuff. I'm gonna send you some images in our Facebook Messenger feed for the show. Those are images of glitches in this game.
Glitches?
And
Insomniac game?
Yeah, and they're unacceptable.
Okay.
They are unacceptable. The amount of crashes that I've had.
I'm looking at green screen Peter Parker right now in this second image.
They've happened multiple times. Those two particular glitches have happened multiple times, and the game has crashed on me maybe 2 or 3 times. That's unacceptable. That's no. That is completely unacceptable.
Did the first one ever do that at all?
No, never.
No?
Never.
Okay.
No. So it's been buggier than I would have liked, and maybe that's just me, but
Mhm.
no, this is unacceptable. Um, so a lot of this game is building on the foundation that the first two games have had, right? And that's a good thing and a bad thing. The bad thing is, right, like, well, the good thing is like you got this map. I popped in the older two Spider-Man games. You can see a difference,
Mhm.
especially if you know what you're looking for. Like lighting is a big. I work in lighting for my day job, so I notice lighting in video games. The lighting in this thing is very very good, and it's subtle, right? But if you pop in that first remastered Spider-Man, um, you look at some of the streets and some of the colors, they look a little bit flat, right? Like they look a little flat, but in this game they are textured and detailed, and you can really tell like ray tracing is like the big thing, but like ray tracing is a thing, right? Um and it looks great. But some of the some of the issues that I have with the game are because it's building off of the first game, it carries over some of the bad habits of the first game. So, a lot of the mini games are very repetitive,
Mhm.
and they are, you know, instead of Taskmaster giving you challenges, a different character is giving you challenges, right? Instead of collecting backpacks all strewn throughout Manhattan, you're collecting little spider robots strewn throughout Manhattan. Um, and it's fine, but some of that feels like busy work. Now, look, I love it, right? Like it's more swinging around New York and having a good time. So I'm not necessarily complaining, but there are no innovations on that front. And with a numbered release, you want to see a lot of like innovations, and they do have some innovations that I think are for the better. Like there's a new. I think that might be it for my negatives, man. Like I think that's it. Um, on the gameplay front, we'll talk about gliding in a minute, but they have this new parry mechanic. They have new defensive options. Because when you're Spider-Man, Spider-Man's not supposed to get hit, right? And I
Mhm.
heard about like these defensive options, most notably the parry system that they have. And I'm like, well, I don't know, man. Like the whole point of Spider-Man being, Spider-Man is that he's not supposed to get hit, right? Like Spider-Man doesn't need a parry, but it works. And the reason it works is because enemy AI is a little bit smarter, especially the enemy type that appears in the third act. The enemy type that appears in the third act is hyper aggressive, and they bum rush you, and they're very agile, right? Like they can dodge your attacks, right? Like normally enemies can't dodge Spider-Man because he's too fast, but they can block and retaliate. No, these enemies will leave you swinging at air, right? And they work not necessarily in tandem, but they're not just kind of waiting around like a kung fu movie. So you do need the parry mechanic to kind of get you out of such certain situations, and you need it in boss fights because boss fights are a thing. And in the first game, the bosses were just kind of like big big thugs. You know what I mean? Like the Kingpin was the first boss in the first game. He didn't have a life bar. You just had to kind of, beat on him, and then he would change to a different pattern, and you would have to just kind of beat him. But you never quite knew how well you were doing. No, in this game, like there's a life bar, there's an arena, and it's you versus the boss, and the boss mechanics are very fun. I really enjoy it. Um, the gliding, so there's a new traversal mechanic, and because it's like how you gonna you know cross the river between Manhattan and Brooklyn and Queens, right?
Well, I mean, they do have a bridge that you can.
They do have a bridge, but you don't necessarily want to. You don't want to swing on the bridge. Up, I got to swing over here, and then I got to swing to the bridge and all that. So they give you this. They give you these web wings, which you know. I mean, they basically allow you to they turn you into a glider, right? Like the web wings aren't. They turn you into a glider, and they have new wind tunnels throughout New York where you can kind of go into the slipstream of the tunnel to kind of get you from one place to another. It sounds very un-Spider-Man like, but it's really fun. It's super fun to kind of like I flew from the top of the Empire State Building just to see how far you can get. And that's trophy, by the way. It's to cross the bottom of Manhattan to the top of Queens, only using your web wings. So it's really fun. Um, Gameplay has been expanded a bit, um, but uh, they give you two different options for each Spider-Man to take on their foes, right? Like Miles has, but they're not. I kind of like the approach that the first Spider-Man game had toward combat because with Peter, it was all about using his stick and move attacks along with a wide variety of gadgets, right? Because it's an Insomniac game, they had a lot of gadgets, and there's not a lot, just like less than half this go around. But they supplement that by giving you more superpowers. But the superpowers are somewhat similar, right? Like Peter has his arms, his mechanical arms that come out of his back that he can use in certain fights. And later on, slight spoiler, I guess, but like it's a story with Venom in it. So Peter gets the black suit and he gets like Venom powers, right? You've seen it in the trailers. And you can switch between those. They do different things, but not really. Like all those powers are just like crowd control, right? It just gives you different options. Same thing with Miles, right? Like he has his normal yellow venom and he has this upgraded like evolved blue venom attacks. And a lot of it is just for crowd control. Um, what I do appreciate is the fact that like in the first Spider-Man game, you were better off kind of picking people off one at a time, right? Like separating people, taking one guy out, flipping across the arena, take another guy out, and bounce back and forth, right? Like maximum spider, right? In this game, there are a lot of gadgets that you can use to gadgets and abilities that you can use to pull people together to try and take them out in groups, which you really need to do, especially in the latter third of the game when that different enemy type comes around. Um, all in all, I'm satisfied with the gameplay changes. I do miss the gadgets though. I wish there were more gadgets. Um, eh, oh, one thing that bugs me is that you can't replay missions, and you could in Miles Morales. Like they give you options to like replay the story mission, and like once you hit the end game, like that's kind of it. Like unless you want to swing around and fight random crimes that happen every once in a while, that's kind of it. So I wish you could replay the missions. They had that in Miles Morales. I don't understand why it was taken out. That's a pet peeve of mine. Like, don't introduce something and then take it out. Like that's bizarre to me. Um, Look, man, the story of this game is I mean, this is cinema, right? Like this is this is cinema, okay? Like there was I mean, that second act of this, the second act of this game is just like, oh my god, dude! Like I'm getting chills, man. Like I'm get like these people have created this world and they have created this universe and they know what they're doing. It's the only problem with the story is that if you're any kind of Spider-Man fan,
Hmm.
you can see where the story is going. You are a little bit further ahead than you need to be in terms of where the story is going, but there's nothing wrong with a well-known story if it's told well. And I think this story is told well. Things make sense,
Hmm.
right? Like that's the only thing I if as long as things make sense, you can tell this story the way that and have its outcome be what you think it would be without some bullshit twist in it, right? Like people get too concerned in storytelling with trying to trick their audience instead of telling a good story. And this tells a really, really good story. Now, look, I mean, there's Craven in a video game. Anyone who knows Spider-Man and Craven, there's one particular story that pops into their head. So, like, okay, I kind of get where this is going. If you're paying attention, you kind of get where the last where the final act, how that's going to play out. But again, it's really really good. And the teases and implications for what could possibly be in a Miles Morales sequel or B uh, the inevitable Spider-Man 3 have me just giddy, man. Like I can't tell you how fucking like excited I am for a game that probably won't come out until I'm 50 and on the next generation of consoles. Like I can't like and that's the beauty of the story. It is a satisfying conclusion to this particular story, but it left me wanting more. And it's like god damn it, like I can't wait to play this again.
So I guess, and I don't want you to spoil anything certainly, but what it seems they did not do from what you're telling me is that they did not conceive like three Spider-Man games as like a coherent arc, and they're not doing the typical like second act kind of like leaving it on like a kind of a down note sort of thing. And again, I don't want you to spoil anything.
So you know how in storytelling you have your opening act
Hmm.
in like grandiose storytelling. You have your opening act to ingratiate you with these characters and it's kind of feel good and all that. And then the second act is usually like the darker turn, right? The
Hmm.
Empire strikes back, right? The Empire wins and shit. But it leaves you with a little bit of hope. And then the third act is like fuck all that like feeling sorry for ourselves shit.
Hmm.
Let's fucking go, right? This is very much a second act.
Hmm.
It's a very dark story. And the second act of this second act is extremely dark. Like it turns into a creature feature, man. Like like it's like oh shit, like you play as Mary Jane in a couple of these things and it's like it's aping like elements of a horror movie.
Hmm.
By the way, the Mary Jane segments in the first game were god awful. Everyone hated them because they were stealth missions where um, once you're spotted, that's it, game over. You need to restart. Mary Jane now has been outfitted with things that prevent an instant failure. Right, you got a couple of shots before you fail those missions, which is a welcome surprise. But yeah, this chapter is a dark, dark chapter, but it tells a satisfying story.
Hmm.
Like this game could stand on its own, but if you are ingratiated in the Insomniac Spider-Man universe, you will really get a lot of this, a lot out of it, out of the story. Like there's one there's one compliment that people pay to movies that are set in New York that that I feel like is like you know shut up, right? Like, and it's like, oh, New York really feels like a character, right?
Hmm.
But but and I normally when I hear that, I'm like, yo, shut up. No, it's not. It's a city. It's New York. Like, just New York has a great publicist, right? Like, it's fine, but it's shut up, right? Nah, yo, it feels like a character in this game, man. But it only, but it really feels like a character in this game. Uh, I think it feels like a character in this game if you really get a lot out of the first two games, right? Like, there are characters that appear in the DLC of the first game
Hmm.
who make appearances in this, like, not major characters, right? Like, just like side quest characters. And some of the side quests are what make this city feel like a living, breathing place. And those are some of the best things in the game. Um, just the little character things, right? That make New York, Insomniac's New York, feel alive. And I hate myself saying stuff like that because it sounds so cliche, right? It sounds like, oh, it sounds pompous, right? It sounds like something Jay would say when reviewing a movie, right? Like, it feels very pompous and arrogant, like he is, right? But it but it's true though. And I haven't done that in a while. I just, you gotta remember to shit on Jay, 'cause he ain't gonna listen to this. But yeah, man, look, I wish I could talk about the story, but I can't. But I'm telling you, like, when I I mean, like, there are moments that, like, it deals with, this story is all about, like, loss and grief and how and second chances and how to push through negative things that happen in your life. And like, video games shouldn't be affecting me like this, man.
Hmm.
And I really, and look, part of it is because it's Spider-Man, right?
Hmm.
Like, part of it is because, like, the reason I'm getting into this is because it's Spider-Man and I love Spider-Man. But these people know how to tell Spider-Man stories. They know that Spider-Man's one true weakness is his savior complex and his incredible, like, guilt, right? And they get it and they exploit it in the storytelling, and it works, man. It fucking works, and I love it. I love these are quintessential Spider-Man stories. I can't say enough how fucking happy I am. I'm gonna hold off
Hmm.
on trying to replay this because I want to replay it when New Game Plus comes out. Which, again, why isn't New Game Plus available at launch?
That
Like,
is that
I
is
know,
weird because like what do you have to do? Like it can't be like oh we haven't developed it yet because it's the same fucking. It's not like you changed anything in the
right,
game. It's just they want to give
right.
people a chance, like something to come back to. I guess
I
later on.
guess
I don't know.
I guess it's to, yeah, I guess it's to give people, like, hey, let's let this game, kind of marinate here for a couple of months, then release New Game Plus in December or whatever to kind of get people back into it. Nah, yo, release New Game Plus now because people like me, psychos like me, want to replay this game from start to finish again, with all my gadgets and shit. So yeah, man, hurry up and release New Game Plus, and fix those damn glitches. And the Puerto Rican flag and the Cuban flag are different. Like, they're very similar, but they're different. Okay, come on, yo, like, that's a gross oversight, man. Like, um, yeah, man. Like, the feeling of swinging in, oh shit, there's a problem. Let me go down and take care of it. And all of a sudden, the other Spider-Man is there, and you guys are like kicking ass together. Like that shit feels great, man. And yeah, man, I fucking love this game, man. I really do. I really do. I want to play it again. Hurry up and release New Game Plus. Was there anything else about this game that yeah, man. Look, you if you want this game, you already have it, right? It's the
Hmm.
fastest selling PlayStation Studios game ever, right? So if you want it, you already have it. But yeah, it felt great to. I haven't been able to kind of dig into a video game like this in a very long time. I told my wife, I said, "Look, I know our anniversary is coming up. If you could just do me a solid and leave me alone for this weekend, I wanna enjoy this, right? I wanna enjoy this. It's the perfect length.
Hmm.
She was like, "Okay, all right, you can, but like, I need you to do this, I need you to do this, and I need you to do this. I will do it, and then leave me alone, right? Like me and Peter and Miles, we got a job to do. Me and these two dudes, we got to spend some time alone together. And for me, it's the perfect length for a
Hmm.
game. It took me about 22 hours to get through the story, and that was kind of and during the first act, I was kind of leisurely going through the story
Hmm.
because, like, it was the story's paced very well, but like I wanted to do some other stuff, right? And then in the second act, the story picks up, and I'm like, well, I can't just like not not see what happened, right? So, and the game has a very good like way of telling you when you might want to take a break
Hmm.
in the story. Like, and it was done in the previous two games where it's like, hey, here's this major thing that happens, but conveniently, this person has to analyze something and they'll get back to me.
Hmm.
And then Spider-Man will say, "Oh, well, I guess I should see what else, who else needs saving." Like that's kind of like your chapter mark, right? Like, oh, okay, if you want to take a break, this will be a perfect time. But yeah, man, I yeah. So the platinum is super easy. Kind of
Hmm.
wish it was a little more difficult. But yeah, man. Fucking this fucking game, man. I love it. I love it. I love the first story. I think I like this one a little better because it feels a little more personal,
Hmm.
and there's a lot of like I like stories about overcoming grief and adversity and loss
Hmm.
because like stuff like that is we've all gone through some loss, and you need and this is why we have superhero stories, right? To kind of give us the motivation to push through, right? Like to see your heroes persevere and think that you can do it. And yeah, this story was told really, really well. And the game is fun. It's just fun to play. It's simple to play, and it's fun. And it felt like putting on a glove, man. Like I loved it. I absolutely loved it. Hurry up and release New Game Plus. This is fucking ridiculous. Just release it. Release it. And
I
give me
will.
some DLC. Give me some DLC
Damn, it
because
just games just
goddamn,
came
man.
out.
Like,
Jesus
nah,
Christ.
yo, nah, you can't. Some of these side quests, man, because it could go in so many different directions, Brad.
Hmm.
There's a side quest with a cult where it's like, oh, okay, this person looks very familiar if you've seen a Spider-Man story before, but this person is not going by the name that we know them by, but like, and then you finish the quest and it's like, right? And it's like that could be its own DLC. There are the way the story ends. One of the Spider-Man says something that could be its own DLC. One of the other quests where you're looking for that could be a DLC. Yo, come on, man, come on, hurry up, give me something, give me something.
Well, I will tell you that if you were part of our Discord, we do have a Spider-Man channel where you're free to discuss anything, including story spoilers and things like that. Now that I see a lot of you are beating the game, hopefully you guys can jump in there to discuss some things. And again, just use spoiler tags for like the major stuff, just to make sure that anyone that doesn't want to necessarily see that stuff doesn't see it. We'll take a quick ad break, and then I have to ask Micah a very serious question about Spider-Man 2. All right, so Micah, I hear you talking about this, and I can't help but think about other media because, like you're saying, like you're talking about New York based adventures, where a team has to overcome, get learning how to get past these negative feelings, to win the day, and New York is a central part of the story. Micah, how does Spider-Man 2 compare with 1989 cinema masterpiece Ghostbusters 2 in the lexicon of New York-based sequels?
You know what? Ironically, there is a giant thing that the team has to fight. A la, well, that's Ghostbusters 1. But
They have to fight the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
I mean, they gotta fight this giant thing. Like, there's a giant thing that you have to fight.
I know that.
So-
I almost like, you don't have to talk about it because some people are very touchy. Like, people have talked about that, but I even know what part you're referencing. People have talked about that online because it's literally like the first thing that happens in the game. So like,
Yeah.
people are just like, oh, but don't spoil it for me, bro. I'm just like, dude, you can see it. Like, if you watch anyone's Let's Play for 15 minutes, you're gonna see some of this shit. Damn, man. So
Right, like if you've read a review, they talk about it.
Right.
Like, all right,
right, because that fight features like one of the greatest like technical innovations in video games, basically. Something the producer of the game, like, yeah, like this one part of this that happens in the opening scene in the game, like we literally couldn't have done in the last generation of consoles because we need the full processing power of the PlayStation 5. I can't wait till this game comes out on PC to see what the minimum specs look like.
dude. There's one like mini like well, it's part of the main story where you're working with another character, and they are Insomniac is, using kind of their influence from Ratchet and Clank, let's say the latest Ratchet and Clank. And they're showing off, man. Like, they're just showing off, and it was super fun. One, you're working in tandem with another character. Two, you're oh man, it's super fun, man. Like, this game is dope, man. I really like it. The suits, my God, the suits, Brad. They're one of the things about Spider-Man is that he has an extensive wardrobe, and the suits are pretty dope. Miles kind of gets the short end of the stick again with some of these suits. Some of these suits look kind of weird. All those suits that you pay for the deluxe edition, they're garbage. I hate them. I hate them all. And that's not just me being like a purist or whatever. Like, they all look whack. But and it's the little things, man. Like the like depending on, like I told you, Spider-Man has mechanical arms is as part of his arsenal. Well, depending on what suit you have, like, the arms change, right? Like, the Iron Spider suit, which is like red and like reddish orange and gold, has the gold arms, right? But the Superior Spider-Man suit has the red. I think they're called like Waldos or something like that. It has the red arms, and it's like, oh shit, like that's fucking dope, right? It's not just a generic standard like it's little stuff, man. Like, they paid attention to little stuff, which is why them mixing up the Cuban flag and the Puerto Rican flag is egregious, right? Like, you change Spider-Man's arms, yo, but like, yeah, it's just a color change, yo. Like, what are you doing? But yeah, man, it's super fun. I love it. All the implications. The ending is like I said, the ending is satisfying. It's got two different. It's got a mid-credit scene and an end-credit scene. The implications for that result as of the very last scene. Maybe a new hero is coming. That is.
Is it Nick Fury, the Avenger Edition? Don't say anything, just in case it is. Who the fuck knows anymore nowadays? It could be insane. You never know what could happen in this day and age.
They even have a well, I won't tell you that, but yeah, man, yeah, this might be my new favorite game, man. I fucking love it.
That's so. You can speak to this then, because you at least played God of War Ragnarok. Like, did you feel that same like crescendo from the first game in Ragnarok, or does that just feel kind of like very much more the same, or did you even prefer the first one? Because it sounds like you like this a lot more than you liked the first Spider-Man, and you really liked the first Spider-Man because you played it like 4 times to completion.
I didn't think I would. I didn't think so I think the second God of War is an improvement on all fronts. Um, I think that it is. I think it's a better. No, I think the first story in the first God of War is a better story.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's told a little better. The second God of War has a lot more elements to it,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a lot of kind of juggling. It's really good,
Mm-hmm.
but the first story is a little more focused, which is what I can appreciate.
Yeah.
The story in the second Spider-Man again has a ton of different stuff, and there's one part of it that Craven is not as kind of fleshed out as I would have liked him to be.
Mm-hmm.
He's still a pretty formidable antagonist. Like Craven's not fucking around, right? Like he's there to do something, and he's doing it. And but it's not all the marketing is around Venom,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like and that is the best one of the better parts of the game is dealing with the Venom situation.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Craven situation kind of is the Craven situation is there, but it feels like it's there to bring you to the Venom
I
situation.
see.
And so yeah, like that might be enough. So again, a lot of stuff that's kind of like juggling.
Mm-hmm.
But I, I don't know, man. I don't know. Like, just iron out those fucking bugs by the time this new game plus comes out, which should be next week if it were me. But it probably will be sometime in like December, and which is fine because I'm not going to Florida this year, so I can stay home and play this again.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I fucking love it. I fucking love this game.
So I just started playing Super Mario Wonder today, and I mean I'd listened to a lot of reviews of the game prior to getting my hands on it, and people were like fucking raving about this game. Like it's like the second coming of 2D platformers, or we're probably at the fifth coming at this point of 2D platformers, but that's okay. They do some really interesting stuff. So basically, it's a 2D Mario game, and that's kind of your starting premise. And what's different about it is every stage has one of these like what are called wonder seeds in them, right? And the wonder seeds literally like transform the stage momentarily into a very specific sort of thing. So like the first stage you get to when you know touch the wonder seed, like Mario starts like tripping balls and like the pipes start like flowing like waves and stuff like that. And that's a very calm first thing to do. The next level you play, like you touch a wonder seed, like the level's premised around these like musical blocks that you're running across, and there's piranha plants that you're avoiding. And then when you touch the wonder seed, the piranha plants all start doing like this very organized like song and dance routine that you're playing through as you go through the stage. And you still can't like touch them, like they're still adversaries, but like it transforms the stage in kind of how it's behaving. And again, like it's each stage has a different, like they do something different with the wonder seed. And I've played through, I don't want to, like 15 or 16 levels at this point, and they haven't repeated anything that I can think of. Like all the stuff the wonder seeds do are wholly different from stage to stage. Sometimes it's like a 15-second thing. Sometimes it lasts considerably longer. It's really cool though. It just kind of changes up the levels in really fun ways. Just for a momentary point in time. There's a lot of new just enemies in the game in general. I've only seen like Goombas and Koopa Troopers and Hammer Brothers so far, but I've seen like 7 or 8 new enemy types that are doing different things. They have these like giant hippos that just kind of walk around that you can bounce off of, and if you like punt them, you can if they fall into a pit, they'll get lodged in the pit, and then they can act as like a springboard that you can jump on to reach like new areas, and stuff like that, which is interesting. They have these birds that shoot these like projectiles at you, but when they get stuck in walls, a platform will come out for a moment in time, essentially. So like it does really interesting things with the levels and how they're designed. Just really like expertly crafted games so far. And again, I'm only like 1.5 worlds in to the game so far, and it's just really cool to see the kind of things you could do. The elephant suit is fine. Like it's kind of like the elephant suit is almost kind of like having the raccoon suit, except the tail's in the front to hit enemies with. It also gives you extra strength, so like you can push on certain things in the environment in certain stages. The bubble
I was
suit.
like, can it make you fly? Like,
No, 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 you can't fly or anything like that. The bubble suit can shoot out bubbles, which can either kill enemies, but they can also act as like things that you can jump off of to reach other areas if you're skilled enough. So like you can throw out a couple bubbles and then use them as like platforming devices, which is pretty nifty. The thing they do that I think is very cool though is they have this badge system, and this has been really under talked about in the game, but I think it's one of the really interesting aspects. So Mario has, and all the characters in the game have these power ups that you can get throughout the game, right? And they do different things. Like one of the power ups gives you like a dolphin kick that you can use in underwater stages to make you move accurately when you're swimming. One of them is like a wall jump modifier that lets you do one jump on a wall straight up before you like have to kick off of it. One of them lets you use your hat as like a parachute, basically, which you've probably seen in the trailers. The catch is that you can only equip one of these badges per stage, and there's like 30 of them, and you can pick whichever one you want. The game recommends one, which kind of can clue you in for each stage, which can kind of clue you in on what use it might have for you, but you can still use whichever one you want, and there's ways to access new areas of the stage or just complete things differently using those badges. So I think that's pretty neat that you kind of have to like pick your power ups as you go. I just started dabbling with the online play a little bit, so I don't have a whole lot to talk about with that yet. But the online play is really cool because you guys know, I'm sure you guys know that this is a up to 4 player cooperative game, and you can just kind of set yourself to be playing online and passively interact with other players that are in the stage as well. And you can even leave like these standees in the environment, and other people do as well. That kind of you can use it in a lot of different ways. You can use it to ask for help from a player. You can use it to kind of passively indicate, almost like the bloodstains in like a Souls game. So, sort of where you can kind of like, hey, like around this area, it might be something you want to check out. And like the communication tools, obviously there's no voice chat because it's a fucking Nintendo game, but they have like little emoticons you can use to talk, so you can sort of try to get your some communication across that way as well with the other players. And you're not subjected, like you don't have to travel in a group with the other players, like they just are in the stage at the same time as you. So it's like people kind of likened it to Journey in some ways, which is interesting. But it's cool because you can just turn it on and just kind of have it on while you're playing, and it's there to interact with as much or as little as you want to. Like you don't have to. You can ignore it if you want to, or you can, if you see other players struggling, like you can go there and help them out. Like with all the recent 2D slash Super Mario World games, it's easy enough to progress through the game. It's difficult to master the game. So one of the things they do on each of the stages, they have like a star rating to show you how difficult it is, right? And in the first world, they sneak one 4-star level into the mix. And so like I beat the first world, then I went back and was like, well, let's check out the 4-star level. Let's see how this is, because most of the first world just 1 and 2-star levels like strewn throughout. And I was right. I was like, oh, this is a 4-star level. Okay, like let me come back to this later once I've mastered like some of my timing and stuff like that. It's just really incredible. Like I didn't really care for much of the new Super Mario Brothers games, like the new Super Mario Brothers series of games that came out, which were the 2D games that had been basically to this point after the series moved to 3D. This feels like they really wanted to like stick a stake in the ground on what 2D Mario could be going forward. And I feel like that they've done a pretty good job with that. It almost feels like they took some of the lessons that they learned from Mario 3D World and kind of figured out how to 2Dify a lot of those like gameplay mechanics. And the other thing is too is like I heard today on a podcast that like of the 5 people that worked on the original Super Mario Brothers back in 1985, 4 of them also worked on this game. Almost 40 years later. So that's pretty nifty. The other thing, and you know, this contrast, I was going to talk about it later, but we can talk about it now. The that King Kong game that I knew that everyone's kind of clowning on right now, that we found out that game was made in 1 year because of pressure from the publisher, and the developers were just proud that they got a working product essentially out the door in a year's time. Except they're charging like $50 for it, and it's one of the worst games. It's even worse than the Gollum game, which is incredible. When they started developing Super Mario Bros. Wonder, they didn't have like a release target. They said, you know what, we'll put it out when it's ready. Like when we know it's done and it's a good product. Why can't I just wish more people would be like Nintendo? Like that'd be pretty dope for the entire game industry. But then again, I guess not everyone could be Nintendo.
Yeah, because you'd have to have pride in your work. Fuck, who needs that?
So I'm looking forward to digging into this more. It's been a while since I had to use my Switch for anything, so you know, that's been pretty cool. But yeah, if you're looking for it, check it out. Johnny even says it might be better than Spider-Man 2, just pound for pound on a game for game basis. So that's an interesting question, Micah. So put your person, and this is hard to do. Put your personal game of the year rankings aside and just try to think of the games industry collectively. Do you think Spider-Man 2, as of right now, and you don't have to count Mario Wonder yet because you haven't played it, but do you think that Spider-Man 2 will be in the top 5 games of the year when the dust settles, as of now?
Maybe top 5.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe top 5. But I think it might be top 5 because it's got that brand, if I'm being perfectly honest. I don't. Baldur's Gate is going to be game of the year. Yeah. It just is. You know, quite frankly, this is a race for second place.
That's not wrong.
I mean, as much as I appreciate Starfield, it wouldn't be. I don't think it would necessarily be in my top 5. I would have to see. But I think it might be. I think it could hit top 5. But you know, like I think Johnny mentioned it in the post office like last week or a couple of weeks ago. There is a such thing as like diminishing returns, right? Like unless your sequel is gobsmackingly phenomenal, which for me this is, but for the average person it might not be, especially if you're not like super into the property. You know, again, if I'm being critical, the game can get repetitive. The game can get very repetitive. Like I happen to like doing that repetitive stuff, that particular brand of repetitive stuff. But you know, hey, here's 10 of these things that you have to do, and then here's 6 of these things you have to do. Like there's a lot of that in this game, and there are 14 districts to clear if you want, you know, that 100% or whatever. And if you don't like doing that stuff and you just want to experience, well, one, if you don't like doing this stuff and you just want to experience the story, you need to watch YouTube. Like, don't pay $70 to play the game if you don't want to play the game. But yeah, it can get repetitive. And when you have stuff like what you're describing with Super Mario Wonder, where like it's a classic game, but like there's more innovation there. I could see how someone could make that argument, right? Like because at the end of the day, it's about games. It's not about like who can make the best interactive movie, right? Like,
well,
it's
that's what's crazy about Mario. Like Nintendo really is kind of the only person that can make a game like that, because like some of the mechanics and like some of the hooks that they put in these stages, right? So most designers would design like a whole world around that mechanic or would design several stages around that mechanic. Nintendo's like, here's this like mechanic that could carry like several stages or a whole world of a game, and we're just gonna use it in one level. You know what I mean? Like we're gonna intro it, we're gonna show it to you, and then we're gonna give you a way to master it, and then we're never gonna touch it again. Like we're just gonna forget about it because we've got 90 more of these to show you.
Look at all these gems that
Right.
that we're just using. Look. Oh, look at all these things. You would use that as an infinity stone, and we're using it as a paperweight. What the fuck?
And I can only wonder like how much. I'm not saying that they ripped off people, but I can only wonder how much seeing things and seeing community creations like in Mario Maker, help further inspire them and things of that nature as well too. I wonder how much Mario Maker has come back to influence like the current 2D Mario games that we'll see starting with this and kind of going forward into the future. So,
oh, absolutely.
We'll take another quick break, and then I guess we'll cover some brief news before we get out of here. We're back. The news is going to be super brief. Look, it's another fucking couple weeks in the game industry. It's another several run of game industry layoffs. A third of Team 17, which is a developer that does the Worms franchise, was laid off a couple of weeks ago, which fucking is terrible. Even though they have like a couple of really, popular games on the market right now, including Dredge, which has been kind of an indie darling, Hell Let Loose, which had a moment last year in terms of first-person shooters. The Epic Games Bandcamp sale shortly after acquiring them led to tons of layoffs at Bandcamp, thanks to the new company that they were sold to. And then the big news that came out today is that Media Molecule, a PlayStation developer, lost about 20% of its staff, I guess in the wake of Dreams not being supported long term anymore. And Media Molecule is it's one of those like studios that people have always really wanted to see succeed, and just for some reason like they've just not been able to recapture like what they did in that first Little Big Planet that just kind of set the game world on fire. Even though they're doing really interesting things, like Dreams by all accounts was a massive success and had some amazing stuff created in it by players with the tools that Media Molecule put out there. But they just can't seem to find like that really big commercial, breakthrough that like they had with the first Little Big Planet. So.
Yeah, that sucks, man. Like I don't know what else to say.
I mean, there's not much else to say.
Right.
It's just, we have to keep calling attention to stuff. And, again, like we look at, the mismanagement of publishers around the industry just is what continues to drive this home. Fortunately, one of those people that has been a hobby horse of everyone in the games industry is not long for the games world. Phil Spencer has confirmed that now that the Activision Blizzard sale has officially closed and Activision is officially owned by Microsoft, Bobby Kotick is going to be staying on for the remainder of 2023 and then getting his walking papers and a nice big fat golden parachute worth probably several $100 million to go away forever. But you know what? Even though he's going to get paid that money, Bobby Kotick already has a shitload of money. More money is not going to really matter. And if I never have to fucking hear from him again, I'll take your money and just disappear forever, please.
Yeah, it's not going to help you get a date, dork. They say, oh, I can't get a date because whenever people Google me, they see me with devil horns. I mean, that should say something about you, bro. Like, like
what are the so like evil. What are the odds that he starts like a super PAC?
I mean, I gotta feel like that guy. I gotta feel like that guy wants to be like close to power.
That's what I'm saying. I mean? I guarantee you, he starts like a Republican super PAC and he finds a way to infuriate us in new and exciting ways for the next several years. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely. He's got the look of a politician. Yeah. Right. Like he's like if Ted Cruz was rich, right? Like he's got that look, man. He's got that look. He ain't going away, man. He's not going away. he's like Jerry Jones, man. He's the Jerry Jones of the video game industry, right? Like
I don't think
he's
he's
not
gonna
going
start. I don't
away.
think he's gonna start a new video game company though. I wouldn't be shocked if he just
No, no, I
got
don't
out of
think so.
interactive media altogether.
No, yeah, no. When I say that, I mean like we know we shouldn't know who the owner of football teams are. You know what I'm saying? Like, but we do, right? Because he's addicted to like fame and the camera, and like he wants people talking about him. I think, and the way we talk about him in the video game industry, like that stuff is intoxicating, man.
Mhm.
Just think, you could have the whole world talking about me, right? Like, nah, man. We're not done with this guy. Not by a long shot. My wife is gonna know who Bobby Kotick is,
Mm.
and when that happens, like we're all in trouble.
Well, let's hope that that's just delayed by as long as possible before we have to see him creep up again. But look, I'll be happy to see him gone, and I really do hope that the move to Microsoft will start improving just everything regarding Activision Blizzard. Because again, I'm generally not pro consolidation, but I am pro getting the fuck out of Dodge when people that are running the company are running it really terribly. So
I mean, I might be pessimistic, but I mean, I think things will improve, by default. But I don't like because you can't go any lower. But I don't foresee like drastic change. Like one thing I can't stand is when corporations try to be like we're a family, and we're like, no, you're not. No, you're not. Like you make products, I buy products. Like let's keep this purely transactional. Stop trying to be my friend, right? Like don't be my friend. Um, and that's the best I can hope for at this point.
yeah,
It's just like this corporation decides that it wants to be it wants to be a job and treats its employees like human beings. That's it. That's all. That's the bar, folks. Treat people like humans.
we're seeing the first signs that Twitch might be feeling some pressure from competitors like YouTube and Upstart Kick. Basically, they are loosening the reins on previous rules, and they are now going to allow streamers to simulcast their streams on any platform, which was previously restricted back in the day. The exception to this will be streamers that have a Twitch exclusivity agreement. They will not be able to stream on other platforms as well, or simulcast their streams. But that is to be expected when Twitch is paying them a shitload of money. Also, I found this amusing to show how stringent their partner program is. Their CEO apparently applied to be a Twitch partner without like telling anybody, and he was denied because he didn't. He didn't. So I guess they were just trying to show that, like, look, like it really is more difficult than you think. Like we're not just trying to bar you from doing it. They had TwitchCon this past week, which is where all this news came from. And finally, the Epic Game Store, or Epic Games, I should say, who apparently has no money because they had to fire or lay off 890 employees, are still finding a way now to extend their 100% now on Epic Game Store deal to back catalog. So before we talked about a couple weeks ago that they have a new program where if you announce a new game on the Epic Game Store and have it exclusive on the Epic Game Store for 6 months, they would give developers 100% of the revenue before going to their typical 88-12 split. Now they are saying that if you want to opt in, and if you can bring us a back catalog game that's never been on the Epic Game Store before, but has been published on other third-party hosting sites or subscription services, we will give you that same 100% split for back catalog games as well. Really, really trying to boost up the Epic Game Store. Again, I wish they would spend that money on improving the experience of the Epic Game Store for consumers. Because again, man, Steam, like I said, Steam has that foothold. It's hard to pry people out of it. I personally, as someone who's now playing on PC, like, have not found a single reason to play one game on the Epic Game Store so far. Like, because
Yeah, man.
all my stuff is already there. It's already, Epic Game Store's giving me stuff for free, and I'm just like, well, none of these games really appeal to me, so I'm not playing them right now. But yeah,
So yeah, man, you can't beat Kleenex, yo. Like
no,
like like it's the brand.
yeah. And again, like I was someone that like when they first came out and people were like bitching, they're like, oh, like it's hard to get people to use a new launcher. I'm like, surely it can't be that bad. Like it's just another program you open up on your PC. Like how hard is it really? And then now that I'm doing it, I'm like, yeah, no, like I'd rather just have everything on Steam. Like all my achievements are here. It's all my friends are here. It's nice.
Yeah, I get it.
And like Steam Deck too is not doing them any favors. Like you can run Epic Games Store on Steam Deck, but it's a pain in the ass.
Yeah, isn't there like a bunch of workarounds and stuff?
Yeah,
like
you have to like download the client in desktop mode and then set like a program to run when you're in Steam Deck. It's obnoxious. When I could just install the Steam game and it's right there. So
right, get out of here.
Yeah.
Get out of here. No one wants adhesive bandages. They want Band-Aids.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
We'll take one. We have one post office question. Again, you can ask us questions every week by going to densepixels.com/fans in our Discord, just like Daniel did. Micah, your thoughts on Barcelona FC being investigated for bribery?
Good. I think it's a long time coming. I think Barcelona's foot cachet is been, I don't know. I think the Barcelona Football Club has been inflating the balls for far too long and bribing the refs and I don't know anything about Barcelona. I haven't been keeping up with soccer. I've been a bad sports fan.
Yeah.
But I don't really keep up with sports. Period.
So the thing with Barcelona specifically. So in the Spanish top league, which Barcelona is in, they and Real Madrid are like perennially like the top two teams in the league. Atletico Madrid sometimes sneaks in there, but for the most part, it's those two teams, and they bring in like just like them and Madrid are like the two most popular football clubs in the world, like more popular than Manchester United, Manchester City, Chelsea, Liverpool, shit like that. Like those two clubs are fucking global brands. Yet somehow Barcelona, especially more than Real Madrid, can't seem to run their finances effectively. Like despite that they have all the, like, and it's because they buy and will spend lavish amounts of money on just like every player in the world, essentially. Like every good player that comes through in other leagues, like one of those, like those two teams will make a run for, and will spend, which runs in the face of the problem is that FIFA has financial fair play rules as well, and the way that FIFA's fair play works is that you're not allowed to spend more than you take in revenue. Like basically you're not allowed to drive yourself to bankruptcy to field a competitive football team, which is good, I feel. But that's led to some like shady shit around the corners. So the fact that Barcelona is involved in a bribery scandal shouldn't surprise anybody. Like their liquidity has been suspect for the last several years now. They've been on the verge of filing for bankruptcy, which is insane because it's, again, one of the two biggest football clubs in the entire world. They finally got their player finances, their wages kind of right-sided this year for the first time in a while. But rest assured that them and Real Madrid, I'm sure, are involved behind the scenes and with some not so great dealings in a lot of areas of the football world. Just rest assured that that's the case. And that's kind of what happens when you live in what the Spanish Premier League is, which is kind of just like a duality of teams at the top, and then you have everyone else kind of fighting for scraps, and occasionally you'll get a team that will sneak in there and win a championship above those two perennial powerhouses. So,
well, there you go.
Craziness. So that's it for us this week. Thank you guys very much for watching and listening. Again, don't forget to support the other TNP shows in the network as well, and we will check you all the next time.
See ya.
You're watching the Dense Pixels YouTube channel. Click the subscribe button while you're here and make sure you check out our weekly podcast where we discuss the latest gaming news and our impressions on what games we've been playing.